country of origin. Now let's look at column 3. So close up column 2 so it's not confusing me. Go on to column 3, and now I have the other circumstance where, because my schema is saying I can have more than one language, I better not just say value of the language, because that's not going to get me all of them. As I proved to myself just earlier, what would that get me? It got me the value of the first language, and I actually should have known that. It got me the value of the first language. It didn't take all the languages and put them together. So if I just say value of dialogue language, it's going to give me the first language, but what about all the rest of them? I can't use the value of directly. I have to wrap it inside of a for each. So now here I have inside my column, I have for each language, put in the value of the language. Now I'll do this piece at a time, but let me just do for each. For each dialogue language, put in the value. Okay, so now let's look at the rest of the strangeness in here. It says for each dialogue language, value of select dot. That dot means select the value of the current node. Now it gets more important to understand this idea of the current node. Each language, each dialogue language, each time around this for each, let me put this on the other line so it's easier to see. Each time around the for each, a different language is going to be the current node. And this dot here says current node. Select the current node, and the current node is going to be each language. Okay, so this is a kind of a tough one to understand, and you might have to spend a little while on this, and you might have to poke around trying to get the idea of what that dot means inside there. But let me explain it one more time, trying to be as careful as possible about the way I explain it. So for each dialogue language, suppose there's 5 language children under the dialogue tag. This for each is going to happen 5 times. Every time around the loop, a different language node is going to be the current node. So when I say select the value of the current node, it's going to select the value of the language node for each of those 5 languages. Okay, so what that's going to do is give us 5 languages all in a row. However, I don't want them all in a row. I want them separated by a comma and then a space. I want to make sure there's a space in there. And so this is what I use, ampersand pound 160 semi. Make sure that I have a space in there and a comma. And this is what the output looks like. So here's 2 languages, silent and English. Here's 3 languages, Russian, comma space, English, comma space, German, comma space. It went round and round those languages, and each time a different language node was the current node, so each time a different word got pasted into the output. Now there's something a little sloppy here. Can you see what it is? There's a comma after the last one. There's no way that I can suppress that comma. Actually, there is a way I can suppress that comma. And what the heck, let me just show it to you right now. It may not stick, but I'll show it to you right now because it kind of bugs me. So we want a comma unless we're on the last one, right? So if we're on the last one, we don't want a comma. So this is how we say that. XSL if, and then test. Now the position, if the position doesn't equal the last one, then we want a comma. Otherwise, we don't want a comma. Actually, we want the comma in the space. Okay, so this is a little kind of beyond where we're supposed to be right now, but since it was staring me in the face, I thought I would at least show you. This is a little more complicated than anything that we've looked at before, right? This XPath in here is a kind of a funky XPath. It's got the not equal in there, and it's not using node names anymore. It's using functions in there, but I just wanted to show you. So that's what's going to effectively suppress that last comma. Let me run this again. Oops, got to go over to the XML file, run it again, replace that HTML file, and it's going to update. And now down here at the bottom, notice I got commas except at the end, and the last comma is suppressed. All right, well, I think we've come a long way. Oh, actually, I got to get to the final point here. So let me review this. We're on choose, right? And we haven't even come to choose yet. I've just been reviewing a lot of other stuff and kind of putting some new ideas in your head. So first column has simply a value in it. Second column, again, simply a value. Third column, since there's multiple values, has to use the for each. We also introduced the concept of the current node here, and I gave you a little bonus of how to suppress the last comma. But if you don't worry about that if it slips by you. Okay, and then finally, we're going to finally come to the final column, and I'll show you how a choose works. Okay, in the final column, we have to choose from a variety of things to say. So here's the final column, and the final column has one of 4 statements in it: silent, subtitled, not translated, or dubbed. Okay, so basically a choice between 4 different things that you can put in that final column. And if we look in here, we'll see 4 different things you can put in that final column. So here's thing number 1, thing number 2, thing number 3, and thing number 4. Okay, so here's the way it works. A choose starts with this choose element, and the choose element wraps a set of when elements. And each when element has a different test in it. So this is when dialogue at lang mode, so that language mode attribute equals none. Here's when it equals dubbed. Here's when it equals subtitled, and here's where it equals silent. I have 4 choices on that attribute, and so I have 4 choices in my when.